So we are talking about creative strategies to boost team engagement on Cloverleaf. And this is the resource. So if you want to click on this resource, this is going to be what you're going to follow along with. If you're a visual person and you want to be able to see what I'm talking about or read what I'm talking about as I'm doing it, you can follow along with this. There are many step-by-step instructions on this that are more detailed than what I'm going to be sharing. So again, not to worry, but this is where you are going to find those instructions. Now, we are also going to embed the recording of this video in this document. So usually within 24 hours, we have that there. So not to worry, the recording, you don't have to wait to get sent the recording. Just save this link, and within 24 hours, the recording will be in this document. So we try to make everything pretty self-sufficient, all in one place for you. All right, so our agenda today, we are going to do a little poll and ask you some information about some of the challenges that you experience with getting teams engaged with Cloverleaf. We're going to talk to you about how do you identify Cloverleaf champions. So you really do want to identify people that can be great ambassadors and great assets to help you really gain engagement and gain more interaction with Cloverleaf. So we're going to be talking to you about that. We're going to be talking about a couple of concepts, and I'm going to be talking to you about some buzz terms and words that I use when I work with teams to help people understand that Cloverleaf is really more than assessments. So we're going to identify scenarios where Cloverleaf can make a difference. Because people have this idea about what assessments are, they often don't understand, well, how and when and where could I use Cloverleaf? So we're going to actually highlight some of these really key areas where Cloverleaf can really make a difference that you can share with your teams. Then we're going to talk about issuing a customized challenge for Cloverleaf use. Now, while we have created a Cloverleaf 30-day challenge, I've given you a little bit of a different, more customized way, or a way you can customize a challenge for your team if you do want to create some accountability around it. So we all know that what gets measured gets done. So when we have accountability around anything, it's people are more likely to actually engage in and do something. So I'm going to talk to you about what are some challenges that you can a team challenge that they can challenge each other with to be able to engage with Cloverleaf more in a way that's also valuable to them. Then I'm going to talk to you about leveraging Cloverleaf Hot Seat. Some of you may have heard me talk about that before, but it's also a reminder of different capacities that you can use it in. Then we want to hear from some of you. What are some of the things maybe that you've done or seen in the past that have helped people engage with Cloverleaf? Maybe your team, uses Cloverleaf in a certain way that would be valuable for you to share. So we are going to ask some folks to share. So if you have a really great Cloverleaf story to share, we want to hear it. And so that will be towards the end as well. We'll also tell you about our March webinar and how you can be a really clear voice and how that March webinar gets shaped. And then we'll answer any questions. We'll also ask you to give us some feedback. Now, please know I have Jason and also our teammate Heidi, also from the customer success team. They are in the chat and they will answer your questions. So if I'm talking and you have a burning question, pop it in the chat. Jason and Heidi will make sure that you get your questions answered. And that everything you need can happen in the flow of our speaking together. Okay, so if you just joined us, Jason, I think you may need to just pop in the chat one more time. This is the resource that you need to follow along, and this will encapture everything that we're going to be talking about today. So not to worry, you don't need slides. This information is everything you need. Okay, so first we have a poll to ask you. We want to understand a little bit more about some of the challenges you face. This is a very popular webinar, so there must be something, right, that is burning for you. So what's your biggest challenge to getting people to engage with Cloverleaf? So is it people think they have taken assessments in the past and it's nothing new? Is it that people aren't more aware of specific situations where Cloverleaf can make a difference? Is it there isn't modeling from leaders of using Cloverleaf and referencing it? Is it that people don't want to sign into another tool? Now, if you're answering other, we want to know from you, what is that other? So if you're answering other, you want to tell us in the chat, what is that? Is there some other thing that we haven't captured in this poll? We want to know from you what that is, right? So for the few folks that are answering other, we're going to give you another minute to answer. If you're just joining us, we're taking a poll and we're asking people what their biggest challenge is to getting people engaged with Cloverleaf.
I'll add, there's lots of participation on this one. Good
Yeah,
job.
this is great. And again, if you answered other, just let us know what that other is. And we want to know what, and we want to be able to articulate what that challenge is. You can let us know in the chat what that challenge is. Our team loves Cloverleaf and uses it effectively. We're struggling to create engaging content in a group setting. We don't understand the value and the privacy concerns. Takes a lot of time. People feel a bit exposed and categorized without the human element or opportunity for them to say whether they agree or would want to share it with peers. All of the above. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. All right, excellent. So let's end the poll, Jason. So it looks like our number one is almost half of you said people aren't aware of specific situations where Cloverleaf can make a difference. Well, we're going to talk about that today. This looks like a tie, almost a tie, right? Between people think they've taken assessments in the past. That's nothing new. We're going to address that. There isn't modeling from leaders using Cloverleaf and referencing it regularly. The challenge feature that we're going to talk about is something that can help with that. People that don't want to sign into another tool, we totally get that as well. There's ways to interact with Cloverleaf through the integrations with Slack, Teams, the email, that they can still participate in using the tool. Okay, so let's stop that. Thank you so much for that information. It's super helpful for us. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. Almost all of the exercises that I'm going to be sharing with you, the strategies, are going to be around Cloverleaf champions. So I want you to think about maybe someone that you know on your team, maybe it's you, that you would consider a Cloverleaf champion. And I would like you to share in the chat, what's one word you would use to describe them, right? So what's one word you would use to describe that Cloverleaf champion, right? That person that uses Cloverleaf, they're enthusiastic about it, they're talking about it, they're excited about it. Consistency, curious, enthusiastic, outgoing, curious. Oh, we've seen curious twice. That's great. Individualist, motivated, empathetic, outgoing, friendly, excited, social, consistent, resourceful, excited, right? Now, because you're thinking about your champions, I want you to jot down some of the names of the people you're thinking about just for you, because as I go through some of these exercises, you're going to be thinking about how you can incorporate them into some of what I'm talking about. Willing to share the value they found, enthusiastic, caring, learner. This learner and curious, excited, resourceful, reliable, right? So I want you to jot down as many people as you can think of that you would say embody some of what we're saying, embody some of these words, right? Who are your Cloverleaf champions, right? Because you're going to be involving them in some of whatever you choose to take on for this. My entire teams love it, right? Tend to be influencers on the disc. Oh, look at Robert's going right in for the assessment connection. That's great. Tend to be eyes, right? Community minded, right? Love this. Willing to share the value they found in the app. So great. I love it. Okay, super. We have a lot of, okay, great. Tend to be influencers. Excellent. Okay, so again, jot down any of the people that you would consider to be Cloverleaf champions, right? Because you're going to be calling on them. Okay, Cloverleaf more than assessments. And I'm sorry, Jason, I'm going to ask you one more time to put the resource in the chat because we still have people joining. Cloverleaf more than assessment. So the first thing you want to do, right? And I'm going to be giving you, this is sort of an outline for a conversation. You want to identify and approach a Cloverleaf champion to share in a team meeting, right? So this is like a little bit of a design of a Cloverleaf commercial, right? That you might consider to share in an actual meeting. You're going to schedule a time on a meeting agenda to highlight Cloverleaf. Now, even if people have been using Cloverleaf, right? We all know that conversations disappear, right? So if we stop talking about something, we stop thinking about something. We stop encouraging people to do something. So schedule a time on a meeting agenda, whether it's at the beginning or the end. Don't put it at the end if it's like a heavy meeting where you had to make a lot of decisions and people are like going to be exhausted and checked out. It might be a good thing to start out a meeting with. It can be a little bit more of an icebreaker, a little bit more of something that is a little lighter topic. Right? Okay. Do a quick dashboard walkthrough. Here's why this is important, right? So we have had so many new features that came out in the third quarter. People sometimes don't know all of the different things that are available to them. So you want to just bring up your dashboard. Yes, you can view your profile, but Cloverleaf really is more than assessments. So how I've been describing the assessments on Cloverleaf, they're just the gas that you put in the shiny red Corvette. Now, when you get a shiny red Corvette, nobody brags about the gas that they put in it. They brag about the shiny red Corvette, right? The functionality of Cloverleaf and the use of the data from the assessments, that's the Corvette, right? So, for example, if I'm here using Insight Search, walk them through this. Say, hey, this is a feature that you can use, and we're going to go over the specific situations that you can use it. But let's say you have to give feedback to someone. How can I give feedback to, I want to bring up somebody, to Peggy. Now, tagging, this is not Instagram. If you tag someone, nobody's going to know, right? This is just you getting information. Now, all of a sudden, I can sort of customize some of my feedback to Peggy. Now, I can also give feedback on these tips and say whether this is helpful to me or not, right? So you want to draw people's attention to this as well. You also want to draw people's attention to the calendar insights, right? So this is giving me a way that I can actually prepare for my meeting ahead of time with Jason. But this is the hidden gem of the dashboard, is the reflections. So it's going to give you a tip about yourself. You're a natural leader. Be mindful that your words and actions aren't domineering or overly directive. Well, I'm pretty self-aware. This is pretty accurate for me. Reflect on how to balance your leadership with empowering others to voice their ideas and take initiative. So this is something that I coach myself on always. And I'll ask myself, like, how can I do this? And so one of the ways that I do this is I try to ask questions when I notice I am talking too much, because I want to make sure that I am sharing leadership. So this is a good, helpful reminder for me. Now it's going to, oh, look, Heidi, it's going to give me a tip about Heidi, right? So Heidi can be effective in leadership roles on teams that lack connection to the wider organization and external stakeholders. Heidi's strength is relationship building and can help create a communications or activity hub within the team, and maybe able to identify key stakeholders outside the team with whom it would be wise to strengthen relationships in order to raise the team's visibility and achieve goals. So this is so timely. So it says, reflect on ways to empower Heidi to bridge team connections with the wider organization. So Heidi actually brought me an idea just 2 days ago on our one-on-one, and I scheduled that to actually talk to our leader, like, hey, Heidi brought this great idea. Like, how can we do it? So I'm going to make sure I talk to Mindy about forwarding Heidi's great idea. Right. And this also reminds me to do that as well. So I immediately think about it. Right. So again, that I was doing it instructionally, that maybe could take you 2 minutes. Right. But this moment, this micro learning, this 2 minutes of development, when I start my day with it, do you see how we didn't talk about any of the assessments at all? Right. And so that's how you have to help people understand that Cloverleaf is more than assessments. And you can take 2 or 3 minutes to sort of highlight some of these helpful daily development practices that can really make a difference. So you want to do that quick dashboard walkthrough. You also then want to invite your Cloverleaf champions to share, right? So you want to invite that person, like, hey, how have you used Cloverleaf in an effective or constructive way? Give me an example, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing that, right? You want to also invite questions and discussion. So this whole conversation, which I've outlined in the resource, this whole piece, maximum 10 minutes, it can take less. It can take 5 to 7 minutes. But it's a little Cloverleaf commercial, right? Maybe as someone shares, your Cloverleaf champion may share, and maybe you get some popcorn shares from the rest of the group. This is something that's very easy to do, to put into a meeting to remind people what's available to them, right? So I didn't even actually show you any of the assessments. I just stayed on the dashboard to show you the functionality, those development aids on that dashboard that can help people in the flow of work. So I want to give an opportunity for anyone to ask any question. So if you want to speak and ask a question, you can raise your hand. Or if you want to feel more comfortable and you want to ask a question in the chat, I want to give you that opportunity. Robert said, I did that kind of sharing for a group that was new to Cloverleaf. It was pretty effective. Okay, so Robert's validating my idea. Excellent, Robert. Thank you. Yes, and this can be super helpful as well. I've had some meetings with Cloverleaf customers that have this has been valuable for them. So again, it's just super quick. It's not something that requires, you're not trying to sell anyone anything. You're just trying to invite people, hey, this is something that's available to you, right? It's a light, it's not a hard sell, right? In other examples of quick hit Cloverleaf trainings, Anita, just say a little bit more about that. Just maybe you've seen this in other trainings, you've seen pieces of this in other trainings. So this is, again, you don't have to have a separate Cloverleaf meeting for this. This is something that you can incorporate in a team meeting. Any questions about this? This is a first sort of light activity that you can do. And again, this is all outlined on the resource. Okay. If you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat. We're going to talk about scenarios where Cloverleaf can make a difference. Now, almost half of you said you thought was the challenge, right? And so this is sort of, I've gathered a couple of them here, and there is even more of them on the even more detail on the resource. So you want to also help people first understand that Cloverleaf is a virtual database for how to effectively communicate and collaborate, right? And so this, you can also add this part on to the little activity that I said, or you can do it on its own, right? So, but you want to share where Cloverleaf can be a great asset. So again, you can do this on its own. You can append it to the previous activity. So preparing for difficult conversations, right? So here are the features to consider, right? Insight search, thinking style comparison, or reviewing that person's individual dashboard. So when you're on here, right, you're on Cloverleaf and you are looking at the insight search, I just modeled that for you, right? So how can I share feedback, critical feedback, with Peggy, right? Now, again, imagine I just took 2 minutes to do this before a difficult conversation. But maybe I want to understand more. Maybe I want to understand a little bit about how do I think versus how does Peggy think, or how does Jason think? So when we go on the team dashboard together, in a second when it comes up, okay, we go on the dashboard together. Oh, I have Peggy pulled up here, and I'm going to find myself in this lovely list. Okay, let me look at this. I want to bring up our DISC profile, right? Now I can understand how Peggy and I can work together. So it's telling me Peggy's likely pushing for business success, and maybe I'm focusing on social success. So we can make an effective pairing when we are guided well by a manager, and when we also use our complementary strengths. So I likely desire input when I'm solving new complex problems, and Peggy likely enjoys being called in to jump into the new and complex. Right? So, okay, now I can understand these are some of the things that are important to Peggy. So how can I go into a conversation that makes sense? So Robert, great question. So we actually have an entire team that writes all the insights. So we have an entire customer insights team. We have an entire contextual coaching team. They write all of the insights. They write all of the coaching tips. They are written by our internal team. And so we pride ourselves on that, and there's always new tips being created and added. Jason or Heidi, is there anything you want to add to that, or that I'm missing with that?
I was just typing in the chat, but I'll say it since you, but I was just like to add on to the fact that Peggy likes to refer to these tips that they handwrite as little handwritten love letters to you all.
Yes. And part of it is, if you think about it, if someone says to you, okay, your leadership skills may be taken as, like my tip said to me, like domineering. If someone says that to you, you're like, who are they to call me domineering, right? But if Cloverleaf says it to you, there's no personality saying that. So it's depersonalizing some of this feedback, right? And it's a little bit easier to digest, right? Right. It's not someone telling it to you. There's no personality or role or hierarchy behind that. And so we pride ourselves on creating this content. And as we get feedback from this content, the content is constantly iterating as we get feedback from you, right? So again, this complementary skill set, the thinking styles comparison is something I would use if I was preparing for a difficult conversation, right? And I also might want to go deeper into someone's dashboard and understand a little bit more about them, right? So if I go on to Jason's profile and I dig a little bit deeper, right, I can understand a little bit more about them and see some of their coaching insights that are combined on the individual dashboard. And I can gather some more information that can help me understand a little bit more about Jason, especially imagine if I'm a new team member, right? And I don't know why it's taking so long, but imagine if I'm a new team member and I really want to understand more about somebody, or I want to understand more about how they think, right? Oh, well, I see Jason is an ENTJ, right? And I know what that means even just by looking at some of the information right on the dashboard, right? And I know I'm an ENFJ, right? So I know that I may be looking at things and I look at sort of the different ways that we make decisions, right? Where he's a T and I'm an F. So I know we together, we might be seeing decision making from a different lens, but we can probably work together to make a balanced decision, which exactly actually plays out in the way that I collaborate with Jason, right? So imagine being new to a team and being able to discover this, or preparing for this conversation and being able to customize, right? So there are many different ways that we can prepare for difficult conversations. We can also remind people that we can use Cloverleaf to prepare to give critical feedback. We might want to consider that insight search, but I'm also going to show you one of the hidden gems that I showed in the past around the team dashboard. And I was just right on it on our Cloverleaf dashboard. So this little button, cognitive function pairs, it's a little hidden gem. The two middle letters of your 16 types, they refer to how you consume, organize, and then information, and then how you make decisions based on that information. So if I need to have feedback, or I need to give feedback, or I need to have a difficult interaction with someone who's an ST, right? This pair is logical, practical, and wants to know the details up front. So I know right there, if I'm going to give them critical feedback, hey, I'd love to discuss with you what happened yesterday on the call. I'm going to tell them right away what my conversation is about, right? I'm not going to hem and haw. I'm not going to say, well, I don't know. I'm going to tell them exactly, because they're listening from that ST mind. They're sensing, thinking, function. They're using their senses. They're using their logic. So I'm going to approach them logically, not emotionally in my conversation. So just by understanding those middle two letters and telling you a little bit about them, you can tweak your feedback conversation and you can create your conversation opener in a way that's going to create a little bit more rapport. Right. So again, these features are all available to you. You can click on them and show them to people. But again, this is a great way preparing to give critical feedback. Preparing to ask for a promotion or a raise, right? So you can review the persuasion tips of you and your direct leader. So if I go to my own profile, I'm going to go to my dashboard and I'm going to go to my own profile. And I don't know why this is not loading. All right, while that's happening, you can use the persuasion tips. You can also review, put yourself and your leader side by side, like in that comparison piece, and see, right, how is your leader thinking versus how are you thinking, right? Because you want to speak into your leader's concerns, right? You want to speak into how your leader makes decisions. Right. So you can, again, use that insight search, right? How do I ask for buy-in, right, from so-and-so? You can, again, review those leadership tips and also gather tips about your own strength, right? What are the things that you want to sell about yourself, about why you should, get this raise, right? Why this should be something that you would do, right? So I can even ask, what are my leadership strengths, right? Now, if I don't want to, have to come up with things that out of the blue, I can just ask Cloverleaf and I can say, how can I incorporate these, right, into maybe examples, right, of things that I've done or things that I've accomplished, right, that I can go into this conversation with, right? So it's giving you this entirely more intentional preparation to these conversations, especially if you're asking for a promotion or a raise. And I apologize for my profile not being able to come up, but when you go onto your profile, you have those tips that are in categories, the persuasion category and the leadership category. The persuasion category is going to give you tips on how to persuade, how to get buy-in, specific to you and specific to your results. But again, you can ask relevant questions here as well. So people probably never thought, oh, I'll log into Cloverleaf when I want to ask for a promotion or a raise. It's probably not something that they think about. Just 2 minutes of preparation in one of these conversations can dramatically alter the result. So, I mean, we know that preparation is everything, right? Even just a couple of minutes of getting your head together before a meeting can help you go into that meeting much more effectively. So it's helping people, again, to think about Cloverleaf to use in these situations. Also, in trying to build rapport across functions, you can use the inside search again. You can review an individual dashboard, but I'm going to challenge you with this as well. You can ask, now, depending how your organization manages from an admin perspective, ask for a Cloverleaf team to be created with collaborators across functions. So you may have a team dashboard that has your team. But now let's say you and 2 other people are collaborating on a project across functions. Create a team dashboard, right, with those 3 people. And now you're going to be looking at a different dynamic than you would on your own team dashboard. So if you want to build rapport across functions and you're starting something and you're planning for that, you can go into it blind. You can go into it just on your assumptions and just what you've heard from other people, or you can go into it having a little bit more feedback, right? That again is depersonalized, not coming from a specific person or role. The other situation to consider is when you want to break through persistent communication challenges. Again, this can be a deep review of someone's individual dashboard or a thinking styles comparison use or insight search. So I am a pretty enthusiastic person. I'm a very social, outgoing person. I'm an ID on DISC. I'm a 7 on Enneagram. I'm an E on 16 types. I always say I can talk to a piece of toast. So when I feel like, if I feel like I really can't communicate with someone, it's really frustrating to me. So I have used Cloverleaf in such a way where I'm really trying to shift. How do I speak the language of this other person, right? I use Cloverleaf with many teams that I work with, and I try to sort of look at how are they seeing the world? What is important to them, right? So, even having all the development and training that I do, I still have communication challenges. So I will sit and actually go through and it will shift how I interact. And I can tell you every single time I do that, I create a better result with someone. I learn how to speak the language of someone else based upon what's important to them, where their priorities are. And I stop seeing our differences as things that are problems and more that are just challenges I can easily overcome. So again, people don't know that you can use Cloverleaf for these things. So again, you can have a conversation and demo some of these features and they're all listed in the resource, or you can append this on to the previous situation, the previous exercise that I gave you. All right, any questions at all? Any questions? And if you want to ask a question speaking, you can raise your hand or you can pop it in the chat. Okay. I would like to hear from a few other people, though. Can you share with us maybe another situation that you have used Cloverleaf for to prepare for? Maybe another situation where Cloverleaf has made a difference.
I manage a leadership development program, and we shared this tool with all of our second level managers so that they could create teams with their direct reports.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was just a matter of sharing the tool. A lot of them didn't know about it. And our organization has a subscription to it. So it's, getting the word out there because a lot of people still don't know about it and what it could do.
Excellent. No, that's good. Even just turning it on to people. Chelsea, can you say more about that? Can you elaborate on your question? I'd love to answer it. You're saying I'd like to learn more about the human element in all of this. Let's see. Okay, Anne, go ahead. You can unmute.
My Myers-Briggs is ESTJ, but I'm really close to the I, and I think I'm a little bit of like a quirky out-of-the-box thinker who likes to kind of connect dots. So when I'm leading a project, sometimes I've been known to be accused of flip-flopping or being, just a little flighty because I jump around from ideas. So I feel for me that sharing with the team the Cloverleaf and how much it's helped me understand myself and me understand others encourages people to maybe better understand me and maybe be more accepting of my quirks.
No, and just being able to just share it with people. This is how I operate. This is how, I come to things. And I think it could be very helpful.
And I think it also is a way to express that in this world of teams where we don't meet face to face, that an interest in really getting to know and understand one another and to acknowledge that everybody's on their own trajectory of like self-discovery and growth. So I just think it's good for that, breaking the ice.
Excellent. No, I think that's great. It's a great point. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sean shared new employee onboarding. We share this with applicants to discuss how we'll work best together and get to know one another. Excellent. Cheryl shared, I often share the feedback of my coworkers with them via email. It often leads to short conversations about each of us and often gives us a humorous connection. Yes, and I think that speaks to the human element of it. There are a lot of stories that I hear from teams and customers that I work with that say, hey, this sparked a conversation. I shared this tip and said, hey, I got this tip about you, but I wasn't really sure like what it meant. Like, what does this mean for you? And it creates opportunities to have conversations with people. It creates opportunities, especially if you're in a dispersed team. And especially if you are in a virtual team, it creates those opportunities to have those conversation starters, right? The other feature I want to just make sure when you see a tip about someone and you want to be able to share it, right? If you're on your dashboard, right? And let's say that I was going to have a meeting with Heidi and I wanted to, say, oh, this makes so much sense. I want to talk to Heidi about this. I can copy this and I can just share it to her through Slack or Teams or whatever. Say, oh, I got this tip about you. I want to chat with you about it on our next call, right? I can add it to our agenda, whatever it is, right? So you can copy and share tips. There's obvious ways that you can share some of this information and start conversations with people. Awesome. Okay. So this is a good question, Chelsea. I want to address it. And she's curious to learn about how to address how people feel a little bit exposed and categorized. So here's the thing, and this is how I help people understand assessments. Assessments are not an exact science. Therefore, they're not the truth. And if it's not the truth, we don't have to argue right or wrong. We look at it like trying on a coat. Okay, if you are trying on anything, trying on shoes, whatever fits, take it. Whatever doesn't fit, toss it out. It's okay. And here's the thing, you can give feedback, right? So for example, if this tip about Heidi was not relevant or it seems off, I could actually say that, right? And say, that seems off about Heidi. I'm not going to incorporate that into what I'm doing. Now, this tip does resonate with me about Heidi. So it really is spot on, but I also learned something too, right? So take what is useful. Now, here's the other thing. None of these tips are telling your coworkers your deepest, darkest secrets. They're talking about your strengths. So now if I want to collaborate with Heidi and maybe she's new to the team and I don't know that that's something Heidi's great at, or I don't know that's something that Heidi has a strength in, I might say, hey, Heidi, I read on Cloverleaf that you enjoy XYZ. Like, I would love your insight into this project, right? And so it's not telling them like their childhood events that contributed to whatever. It's not telling them any of that. It is going to take into consideration that you are a human being, right? And that even if it's a tip that's more developmental, It's not telling your coworker, hey, your coworker tends to talk too much. It's not saying any of that. It may say this person has this tip, but they might not always this skill or strength. They might not always say something about it. So ask them if this is something they'd like to participate in. It's giving you insight into how to interact. Is it always going to be dead on? No. But after working with this tool with thousands of people, like tons of teams, individuals, from the C-suite to the first-time manager to the individual contributor, I will tell you the times that people say it's absolutely, completely not true is very small. Now, are things going to be off? Yes. There are tips that are going to be not relevant. Absolutely, you should give that feedback, right? But take what's valuable and use it and toss out what's not, right? And help people have that relationship to it, right? Okay. Really great questions, really great conversation. So if you really want people to use Cloverleaf, I think you have to add some accountability. So you might want to issue a challenge for Cloverleaf use. Now, if you look in the resource that we gave you, we do have a full-fledged 30-day challenge, which you can do. And this can be something that you set up at the beginning of a month. But if that's too much for you, maybe you want to do something that's a little bit more customized. So, sorry, I went back to, okay. Hold on one second. So while I'm doing this, I just have to switch slides for a second. So if you want to look at that 30-day challenge, right, you also want to understand a little bit about why you want to use Cloverleaf, right? And what is the actual, what's the actual impact that it's going to have, right? And so I'm going to actually share right from the resource right here. Okay. Back to my screen. Okay. So you first want to determine why increasing self-awareness, self and team awareness would benefit your team. This can be an open discussion. You could even just say, how would our team benefit from increased self and team awareness? So this is taking the case that you want to issue a challenge that has some accountability around it. Okay. Now, if a person or people on the team has used Cloverleaf successfully to collaborate, some result has happened, ask them to share, right? This may be two people that found something out about each other that they didn't know, or two people that overcame a communication challenge. Same thing with your Cloverleaf champions, invite someone to share. We also want to acknowledge, now I'm a trainer by trade, but we want to acknowledge that training isn't always the answer to develop oneself. So Cloverleaf is a tool that allows us to have this daily development in just a few minutes a day, right? So we can go read a book and get self-awareness. We can go to a course and get self-awareness. It's not going to be personalized to us. We're going to have to take that information and make it personal to us, right? We have to take it and do something with it. So you want to consider demoing the reflections feature, right? So you might want to consider demoing just how long this takes, like I just did with you. It takes 2 minutes, right? Because the reflection feature is the most interactive feature in Cloverleaf. It's personalized to you, and it also gives you insight in your team. So you might want to demonstrate that, okay? Then you're going to consider what's the realistic number of days a week your team could commit to doing reflections, and how long are we willing to commit to this practice? Now, I coach about a group of 10 people, and I ask them to commit to, I have a coaching project right now. I ask them to commit to doing the reflections 2 to 3 times a week. Here's the thing. If we are at a certain level in our career, in our leadership development, if we can't do 6 minutes a week, 2 minutes a day, 3 times, we have to ask ourselves why, right? If we can't say on my calendar, I'm going to start my day 3 days a week, 2 minutes a day for a little bit of development, we have to ask ourselves why those 6 minutes aren't available for us to develop ourselves. Because we know if we were sent to a training or sent to a conference, it would take a lot more time. So challenge people. What's that realistic number of days we could do those reflections, and how long are we willing to commit to that practice? Then we want to ask ourselves how we're going to assess the impact, right? So how are we going to assess that impact, right? How are we going to say, what if it works, right? Are we going to come back together? I have included some questions in your resource that are available to you so that you can actually use to assess that impact. So these are some questions here. What did I learn about myself through these few minutes of development? What did I learn about my team? What actions did I take? What do we want to commit to going forward? So if you want to do it 2 to 3 days a week, and we're going to try it for 2 weeks, or we're going to try it for 3 weeks, I will tell you 1 week isn't going to really do anything, right? It's the repetition of doing it that over time that creates value. That's why I recommend that 30 days. But if the 30-day challenge was written to do it every day for 30 days, if that's too much, hey, can we commit to doing this 2 to 3 times a week, 3 times a week, 6 minutes, 24 minutes over the next 30 days? Can we do that, right? I think that's a reasonable challenge to ask people. Now, you can also include other variations of this. You can say, hey, what if we're just going to commit to saving a tip and sharing its impact or action and taking it to a team meeting, right? We're just going to do that once a week, but we're going to be engaging with Cloverleaf and we're going to save a tip. Like I just showed you, I saved that tip about Heidi. It's a variation that you could say we're going to commit to. You want to wrap with reconnecting to the why you discussed at the start of the conversation, right? So you've said why, you've committed to a frequency, right? And now you're reconnect to that why. And follow up and reiterate. If you're going to do 30 days every week, just say, how's everybody doing? What are you learning? You want to pre-presence it for added accountability. Okay. So you're going to notice that if you want to do the full 30-day challenge, you have a link to it here, but this is a little guide. And again, if you want to take this 30-day challenge and launch into this conversation after that first little introductory commercial exercise I gave you, great. You can blend all of these together. You can use them standalone. It's up to you. I tried to make this very modular so that you can use what you think is going to be effective with your specific team. Now, you can also use Cloverleaf Hot Seat on a cadence. So Cloverleaf Hot Seat is a 5 to 7 minute information recognition exercise. You basically ask people who wants to be in the hot seat and you click on a person's individual profile. Now, unfortunately, I'm having a little bit of trouble, but I will try again to go to someone's profile. So how can I give feedback to Jason? All right, so no, I don't want John, I want Jason. There we go. Okay, I'm going to try again to go to Jason's profile so that I can share this with you. For some reason, it's just not coming up and I apologize. But when you do go to someone's profile, you will see all that in the upper left-hand corner, all of the little tips, and you will see all the little categories. So what I ask someone to do when I put them in the hot seat, I click on the person's individual profile. I ask them to pick a category of those tips and not conflict triggers because it's a recognition exercise. Then I find a tip that highlights a strength and I read it, right? So I'm just going to read right from the dashboard a tip about Jason.
Steph,
right?
if you want, I can share my profile. I've got it
Sure.
up on.
Is it coming up? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, so I might ask Jason, so Jason, why don't you click on one of the topics that you feel that you want to share about?
Let's do development.
Okay, so motivate Jason to engage with performance feedback by being open and succinct. Focus on what is needed to go forward rather than on what is wrong, and identify 2 or 3 key priorities for action. So I might ask Jason, how is this relevant for you, right? I might ask him to share an example of how this works for him. So Jason, share with me how this works for you when you're being motivated by someone on our team.
I think given what I've learned about myself, and what Cloverleaf has taught me about focusing on what is needed to go forward rather than what is wrong, as an Enneagram 1, I've probably already focused too much on what is wrong and have already worked through what might be needed to go forward and would rely on others to collaborate on what they think is needed rather than spending time that I've already spent too much time on dwelling on the things that are wrong.
Right. And great. And then Jason, it's good that you have that awareness about yourself. And I might ask the team, how have you really helped Jason focus on the need to go forward in the past? And how has that been effective? Right. And so then people on the team will then share, right? So for example, I collaborate with Jason all the time, and I'll ask him his thoughts and his perspective about what's going right or what's going well, so that I can also, I know he has a lot of great ideas, so that I can also get his ideas flowing, right? He's a very creative thinker. And so I know that he brings a lot of creativity into how we can provide learning experiences to our customers. And then I might ask someone else on the team to feedback on that, right? So what you're really giving people is an informal recognition exercise. So that is one of the ways. I'm going to take back the screen.
Yeah.
Jason. So that is one of the ways that you can, again, create more engagement in Cloverleaf. And you can play this more than once. Like you can do this, do a couple of rounds if you have more time, right? So you're really just asking people to reflect on themselves and asking people to also give examples of like, what's something recent that happened that maybe this person shared this strength. Okay. So again, you can blend all these different ideas together. All of the things that I've shown you today are really things that can be used in partnership with each other. So I have a question for you. Which of these strategies are you confident that you could execute on? So if you would like to share in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and speak, that's fine too. Which of these strategies are you confident you could execute on? And I'll just go back. And so the Cloverleaf is more than assessments, that little commercial, sharing common scenarios for using Cloverleaf, issuing a challenge to use Cloverleaf, or using Cloverleaf Hot Seat. Yes, Kim, the Hot Seat idea is fun, it's super fun. And again, there is a link to a longer version of Cloverleaf Hot Seat actually in the resource that we gave you today. There's all different variations of how to use it. Okay, good. Cloverleaf is more than assessment, sharing scenarios, adding to the agenda and showing the dashboard tips. Excellent. Now, some of you shared also Cloverleaf is more than assessments. Great. Some of you shared also the challenge with, maybe leaders not modeling this. So sometimes it's also about getting, if you're a talent professional, it's also about getting the leaders together, right? A lot of this is talking about your team, getting the leaders together and helping them understand why their self and team awareness, is important and how it could make a difference for them, and how, hey, I'm not going to send you to a training. I'm asking you to log on to this tool 2 or 3 times a week. And just like you're brushing your teeth, whatever it is, right? So Michelle said, brand new team starting Monday. I think a mini Cloverleaf challenge would be awesome. You really have to get people to see Cloverleaf as this mind gym, right? As this sort of, this repetition creates results, right? It's the repetition that creates the awareness. We don't gain self-awareness by one act. We don't gain team awareness by one interaction. It's the collection of those interactions and insights over time. Right? Awesome. Okay, so if you had any best practices, in the interest of time, I'm just going to ask you to pop them in the chat. If there's any things that you've done well in terms of getting people engaged, I'd love for you to pop them in the chat so that people can see them and read them. So if there's something you've done with Cloverleaf that's been super successful, please pop that in the chat. And we want you to be able to share those ideas with each other. And you can actually, those of you that are here can actually look and see a little bit about how you can use Cloverleaf as well. Kim shared, it's very useful to my 1-year-old team. We are really new working together, so this has helped us tremendously getting to know each other and how we work together. Excellent. So keep sharing your ideas in the chat if you want to tell us things that have worked out well for you.